wise, getting it from the audience. So pretty satisfied with that. But I've had heaps of really good fun matches. That's probably just the most, from a worker's point of view, most satisfying. Had lots of very, very fun like intergender matches and stuff. They're always good. The boys kind of pick on me a bit when I have those matches, but yeah, I like the intergender matches as well.
Well, you mentioned that you had a long-term feud with JPE. How important is... Well, let me ask this, that a lot of people don't seem to like when the same thing is just recycled over and over and over again. I mean, you can name Sasha versus Charlotte or Cena versus Orton. What is the key to making that feud, even though it's being recycled, memorable? Is it the good storytelling, or is it changing up the wrestling moves in the matches? What, in your opinion, is probably the key to make that feud just memorable and very, still very exciting, still very fresh?
Yeah. It's a bit tricky, but I mean, we did it, JP and I, and also with the other female wrestlers here in New Zealand. There's never many of them, so you do end up having to recycle the feuds in some way, shape or form. I'd face somebody as a baby face for a 6-month run, and then we'd switch roles and I'd be heel against them, to be a heel turn or whatever. So you're trying to keep it fresh and active. But really, here in New Zealand, our shows aren't, some are filmed and put online and things like that, but we're worried more about the live audience enjoying the show. And that's the difference between some indie wrestling and televised wrestling. We only really have to worry about that audience that's there live in front of us now. Now, they may have come to last month's show, hopefully they did, but they may not have. So you have to condense your storytelling into that one night and that one match in front of the audience. And so that's the challenge. So you could have the same match pretty much month after month after month, but as long as it's not in front of the same people, they wouldn't notice that. If it's a good story you're telling, they're always going to enjoy it. So we'd wrestle one night in, what did we do recently? One show in Wellsford in Auckland, and then the next night somewhere else, 100k down the road. And you're unlikely to have the same audience at both of those shows, so you can kind of keep it fresh. And even if it's repetitive and you're wrestling the same person, you still find new things and new ways to challenge each other. But overall, if people are following storylines over a weekly, monthly, yearly basis, then you've got to keep it fresh. You've got to keep adding in different things, different incentives, not necessarily just different gimmicks. Like, I think Sasha and Charlotte must be surely wrapping things up, because we've had the steel cages and we've had all the last man standing and all the different stipulations, so it's done. I feel like they've exhausted the well now. But generally, you can just keep things fresh as long as you can, but inevitably you run out of options. Like it's one of the reasons I have retired, probably Terry Funk style retired, but I've retired from wrestling for a good long while anyways, because with 4 or 5 wrestlers around New Zealand, female wrestlers, it's inevitable that if I'm in a juicy feud, then you're just going to be wrestling that person for a while, and then the feud concludes, and where to? You just rinse and repeat and go back to the beginning and do it again. So it does get a bit uninspiring, and I found that at the time when I announced my retirement, it was because I was just very uninspired with wrestling. It was like, oh well, we wrapped up that storyline, where to from here? And there was just a lack of options, a lack of girls available to wrestle, and not really any other goals to go for. Whereas at the time when I had juicy storylines and a new series of matches against a new opponent, it was just so exciting, pushing ourselves every time we'd meet up and figuring out new things we can do and seeing more and more people get caught up in the storyline. So yeah, it does kind of make things feel a bit flat when you're just repeating a feud that you've done 2-3 times before. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I do remember us talking about before the show, at least months before, that you did mention so many times, like, well, then I'm going to be retired. Make it seem like, well, I don't know if you want a retired wrestler on the show. I interviewed Larry Zbyszko, so it was like we found some stuff to talk about for about an hour, so it's all good. But
I guess that's the thing. You don't have to be actively. I mean, we as wrestlers, you feel like it's my job to come on podcasts, or I enjoy it, but to promote a show, to promote my social media, to promote something. So it's quite weird this is the first time for me switching back into a more retrospective viewpoint, and having to look back on things and discuss things that aren't currently happening. I'm not trying to hype anything, so it's a very strange thing for me. But yeah, I mean, retired from the business is as interesting, I suppose, as anything.
Well, you mentioned that, your retirement. You kind of mentioned one of the reasons why was because of lack of, I guess, motivation. Was it still easy to retire, or was it one of those things where it was still kind of hard because you've done this for so long?
Yeah, it's hard, and I mean, it's going to be harder on the next couple of months because I've still been, like this whole last month, I've still been travelling and been on the road most weekends. Because, on a show day, all of my friends are off doing a show. So if I'm not booked on that show, then I'm like, well, what do I do with my weekend? Or my friends are away busy. But so I've just been on the road and just watching shows and hanging out. But yeah, it is hard to do. The hard thing is because when I announced my retirement and all the lovely promoters that work for said, well, are you doing a retirement tour kind of thing? We want one more match. So we did one more match in each promotion, and everybody gave me, I got really good matches. Everybody gave me a good incentive. So knowing it would be my last match kind of lit a fire and made me enjoy the matches a whole lot more. They were so special. But then if I go back and do it all again, that specialness is gone again. So it's going to be hard. But there's still, it's wrestling. There's still a million ways to be involved in the show. We always need helpers with various things. I went and did my last APW show down in Christchurch and had a wonderful send-off, and then the next month I came back as a special guest referee for a match, but they were kind of refereed down, so I ended up refereeing half the show. So, there's always ways and means to be involved and stay out there in the public eye too. So I think I'll still be engaged in the business that way.
Now, here's probably a really, really good question. Would there be anything that would cause you to possibly come out of retirement, or is this one of those things where it's like, I'm a person of my word, I stick to what I say, I'm retired, I'm done, kind of like what Shawn Michaels did, where he said, excuse me, after he mentioned his retirement, he said, you know what, I'm a man of my word, I'm just done, and I'm happy with where I'm at. Is that kind of the state of mind that you're in, or is there something that might happen that might, hook you back into wrestling again?
Oh no, there's definitely, because there were still a couple of things left on my bucket list to do, but they were more to do with particular opponents, and that's just a case of when the time is right and stars align and I'm actually in the same city or same country as those workers, then that would be worth coming out of retirement for. I'd absolutely love to wrestle Harley Wonderland from Australia in Sydney, so she's on my list, but it's kind of, I can't really commit to flying to the other side of the Tasman for a match just for shits and giggles. So, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But for the most part, I think I need to stay retired. Just because the wear and tear on your body is pretty bad, and I feel like I've been very, very lucky I broke my ankle a few years ago and then got straight back into wrestling, but I feel like I'm very lucky to have never been concussed. I'm very lucky to have never had spinal injuries. Now I just start to think I want to be able to tie my shoelaces when I'm 60, so I feel like the older I am, getting back into the ring, I'm running a risk. The odds are not probably in my favour to keep skating along uninjured, so I don't want to get back into that heavy duty schedule of bumping and being sore and aching, and then suddenly you've got to turn around and wrestle again 2 days later. That's not good on the body. So I'll come out of retirement if the situation is right. So I'm not never saying never, but it has to be worthwhile. It has to be worthwhile.
You never know. There may be just that group of fans who just see you and you're talking and cutting a promo, maybe acting as a general manager or referee, and they'll probably say one more match, and so many people have said they've tried ignoring it, but then there's some points where it's just like, you know what, all right, you coaxed me in one more, and then we'll call it good. But
yeah.
But let's get into like a little bit of a dream scenario. If you did have one more matchup and you can wrestle anybody in the world, whether it be in, let's say, WWE, Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor, I think it's, oh man, I'm trying to remember the name of the one in Europe. What was it called again? IWC. There we go. IWC was what I'm thinking about. If you could have one more match against a dream opponent, who would that opponent be?
Oh, definitely Victoria. I come down every time for that in a heartbeat. I saw her earlier this year against Mickey James. They came down under and did Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore show. And just watching her in the ring, like, she hasn't skipped a beat. She's as good as she ever was. Her and Mickey, Mickey proved that with the NXT match with Asuka. But, so Victoria'd make it worthwhile, definitely. But, situation, it's also like where you're wrestling, who you're wrestling for, what's the promoter like, all those kind of things have to play into it too, because sometimes you might have a decent sounding match, but it's in the middle of nowhere, and the guy that runs the promotion's a bit of a dick, and I don't think I will. Not worth the stress, like sometimes. But then there's other places where, like, wrestling down in Christchurch at Aftershock Pro Wrestling. I've told them, I said, look, I will fly down for all of your shows, even if you just need me to tidy up the locker room and sweep the floor like a janitor after. I said, I'm still supporting their promotion. They're such good people down here, so the promotion will still get my support and assistance in any way, shape or form possible. They fundraise for charity a lot during halftime at their shows. They'll have buckets to collect money for the SPCA or for child cancer and things like that. So, guys that are that awesome, I'm quite happy to go down there, put my glad rags on and go around at halftime collecting money for charity for them, because working for good promoters makes you feel good, Working for less than stellar promoters or dreamers or money marks and things like that, it's not worth the hassle. Like, wrestling's meant to be fun, and if you're dealing with scammers and stuff like that, or guys who promise to pay you and then don't have your envelope at the end of the show, then that's not worth the hassle.
Yeah, it can get pretty rough. I've heard a lot of the stories about, people that are just wrestling for free and they were promised to get paid, or somebody who's, getting busted and they're not getting paid enough, or I guess you could say, you call it the CM Punk effect, where he did not get paid enough to be in one of the main events, even though he was basically considered one of the main events for WrestleMania. But I think that, indie wrestling in and of itself is such a underappreciated, you could call it sport, you could call it entertainment, but here on the Squared Circle podcast, we love to use the hashtag support indie wrestling, because this is where so many of the stars come from. I mean, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, they've made their names known on the independent scene, and now they're just deciding, hey, let's bring them in on the main roster, let's put them into like national TV, where they deserve to probably be on there a long time ago. But a little bit off topic about wrestling, but I want to kind of get your thoughts on this. Ronda Rousey, she had her big comeback this past Sunday, and she lost in about 48. Yeah, she lost in about 48 seconds, and there are a lot of people. Jonathan Coachman even mentioned on ESPN, he said that there's probably no chance of them bringing Ronda Rousey on in WWE just to build her up again. Do you think that's really fair to her, in all honesty, or do you think that her attitude kind of hinders her making an appearance in WWE?
If she had done the media, turned up, that's part of promoting a show, and she got paid so much. She was a draw, and obviously she drew an audience for them, regardless of doing media or not. But come on, turn up, do the interviews before the show, do the interviews after, and play your part, do what the promoter wants you to do. I don't like her attitude. I think she was a phenomenal sportswoman, and when she was at the top of her game, amazing. We loved tuning in to watch her fight for, seconds and tap people out with arm bars was great, but she just turned into a sulky little teenager, and I just really turned off her with her attitude. She's had a sucky attitude for a while. Once she stopped being the golden girl, she got so rattled. So, I agree with Coach. she doesn't have the value. She's still beautiful, she's still talented, and she's still